Yeah, anyway, so here we are this afternoon. We've caught up with my friend Gary. James is here. Hi, Gary, and hi, James.
Hi.
Hello, Karen. Hello, James. How are you both today?
Very well, thank you. Anyway, you quite like James as well, don't you?
I've been listening to him for the longest time. Yeah, it's the first time we've done a hangout together, and I just thought with all this madness going on, let's just forget. I'm not even going to mention the actual words. Let's completely sort of like put that on the back burner and just do a subject that I'm not sure anyone's done before. They've done stuff similar, like Mandela effect, but it's similar to Mandela effect, but I would say it's more sort of like maybe different timelines and time slips and whatever. So I just thought, it might change.
Ooh, sounds interesting.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what. Well, the first thing I'm going to say, like for people in the chat room and anyone else that listens to this afterwards, is once you've eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. Because a lot of this stuff that I've got on my other phone that I've been investigating for years is bona fide. And I haven't sort of like picked up on old stuff from sort of like a couple of 100 years ago, because we don't know whether that's true or not now, do we? With what's happening.
Gary, that's the way I think as well. You can't prove it, can you?
It's only stuff we can actually verify in the last sort of like 60, 50 odd years. I think most of the stuff
you said
I've got
that yesterday. I remember.
Yeah, most of the stuff I've got, like I've looked up, that I've researched. I knew about before, but I just had to look up again. I couldn't find everything, but I might as well start with my own personal one actually, because I can only speak to other truthers about this. I can't speak to my family. Like you know what it's like with regards sort of like the stuff we look at, flat Earth and all the rest of it. You can't speak to people unless you're in the community, because they look at you like you're.
Actually, what it is in their world, we're the lepers.
Exactly. Well, just now, one of my friends phoned me up and she said to me, I thought, oh, Jack, why do you phone me up now? Like, she's always, I think she always had a bit of a thing for me. And she says, oh, when you get your vaccine, gal? I said, I'm not getting a vaccine, Jack. I said, I've got various reasons. She said, oh, no, what do you mean? I said, well, it's ethical. I said, I'm a vegan, and I've got ethical reasons why I don't want it. I said, I'm not putting synthetic material into my body, and that's it. And that is the end of the story. I'm not going to mention it to them anymore, but I think it's causing a bit of a rift in with everybody, isn't it? But let's not talk about it, because if we do, you sometimes get into trouble for it. Let's go straight into the topic of the day.
Yeah, it does affect nearly everybody, though, doesn't it, Gary? I mean, we were talking to Flat Earth Brothers last night. His wife and his mother-in-law. I think his mother-in-law lives in a part of the house. I can't remember, but they all get on with each other and they talk about it and question. That he's lucky. He's lucky. He's got a few people right round him, that are into it. But most of us don't. Well, I've got James now. James is into it, but we mostly don't, do we?
No, we don't. I mean, the thing is, where I live, like I'm probably going to be the only one. I mean, the last thing I need is, I don't think they can do it like compulsory. If it was compulsory, I don't know what I'd do. I mean, because I live in sheltered accommodation, but I don't think they can, because what you've got to remember, it's not just people like us, it's people like Jehovah's Witnesses, Seventh-day Adventists, a lot of other religions. They can't do it anyway, so it's not just us. There are others. There's vegans, which I'm a vegan. Well, I'm not a strict. I mean, with me, I call myself a very healthy eater. I don't think there's such a thing as a vegan, actually, because the further back you look into it, you can always find fallacies in it, but that's another story. I try and eat as healthy as I can, with vegan food, but it's not always easy. But anyway.
James has got something to say.
Well, I was going to say, depending on how you look at it, there's no such thing as a vegan, because when you think what they spread on fields, it's animal waste.
Exactly.
So it's
exactly. That's why I don't call myself a vegan. That's why I don't call myself a vegan, James.
It's well, the other thing is, when you think about how many fertilizers and pesticides have been sprayed onto the soil and how much it's leached into everything, it's been shown that a lot of things you think have got goodness in, have got zero goodness in them anyway.
Also, my ex-husband had this poster up with a cauliflower on it, and it said, "There's enough sprays sprayed on this cauliflower to turn you into one."
yeah, it's true. But I'll give you something funny. I was down the gym once, and I was talking to my mate Charlie. Like, he's a clever old sod. He's only a gardener, and we were talking about this. And I said, "Here, Charlie," I said, "Someone said around and said there was a vegan to me, and they had like a leather handbag, and all hell broke loose." So I said, "You can't be a vegan, love. You've got a leather handbag." And then he said, "Well, Gal, I'll tell you what. Why don't you say to her, go and get yourself a pair of plastic shoes." So anyway, next time she's got sort of like these sort of like plastic kind of shoes. I said, you can't wear them. Now we know they don't exist, but I said, you can't wear them, love. I said, why is that? I said, well, that's made from the petrochemical industry, which is like comes out of the ground, which is made out of deceased dinosaurs. So it depends. No, the thing is though, James, it all depends how far back you want to go. That is why there's no such thing as a vegan. It's impossible. Yeah. It's absolutely. I think it's another psyop. Actually, I do believe now it's another psyop, and people don't. Strict vegans don't realise that.
Was it to try and make people ill then?
Yeah, there's plenty of cases where people have been vegan and they've got seriously ill and had to go back to eating meat. It's because they're lacking certain vitamins which should naturally be in the things they are eating. But
well, you know how you can do it? You can be a vegan today and a meat eater tomorrow.
Yeah.
You just cut it right down and have just little bits of meat. Because I'm at the stage where I'm thinking, that was a chicken. I can't eat it because I know what it was and the whole thing. I just can't. I'm struggling with eating I can't eat great big lumps of meat. I just can't do it. It's just great big piece of chicken.
If you get sort of a free-range organic that hasn't been injected with all these things to bulk them up, because it's all for profit. It's not for goodness. And
my daughter's the same.
That's the best way you'll get vitamins.
Sorry.
Vitamin K and that.
We're eating meat because we're used to eating meat, but we're not eating meat because we love it anymore.
Yeah, this is it.
I haven't eaten meat since the early 80s. I had very high cholesterol, and they just advised me. Funny enough, the doctors were slightly different then. They didn't want to just kill you off, and he said to me, "Have you tried turning into a vegetarian diet?" And I said, "Well, I'll try it." And that was about 1983, and really I ate fish up until a few years ago, but I thought, well, let's just try going vegan. They call it vegan, but basically, for me, it's just healthy eating. It's healthy eating. Yeah. And that's another thing as well, James. Have you ever seen anyone in a shop, like, you have a chat with them and they say they're vegan, and you see them going to the vegan counter and all that, say, that's not vegan, love. When they say why, say, well, it's got plastic packaging on, that's made out of deceased dinosaurs. Yeah. Now, we know that's rubbish, but at the end of the day, that's how you can catch it. It's so easy to catch them out, really, if you're saying you're a vegan.
Them. Like they say, plants and all that, they know, if you chopped a part off a plant, the next time you came into the room, the plant goes, ooh, they're coming. So I'm thinking, I can't kill vegetables now and eat them, because it goes on and on.
Sorry.
I was going to say, sorry, the other thing is, look at how the mainstream have caught on to vegan. You get a whole vegan section in supermarkets. When the system starts giving you this stuff, it's like, oh yeah,
there's something wrong. Yeah,
it's processed.
Yeah. Oh, don't forget, if you're going to buy anything vegan, you've got to stick at least £2 extra on the top.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. The dress it up as high quality and charge.
You can get what do you call them, bars? Chocolate bars. But what it is when you're getting the vegan ones, they cost more than the ordinary ones. Why?
Because they can.
Yeah, because they can.
Strangest thing you said that, I was watching Tales of the Unexpected this morning, and it's a bit of synchronicity, and an old actor who's been dead a long time called Harry Andrews was on it, and what he was a botanist, and basically he built this machine that sort of like, when you sort of like get hold of a plant, or you cut it, you hear it scream. And it goes right the way through, even to when he was chopping a tree, and he heard like the tree go, and it growls, but so it's very strange you mentioned that. You've got these other bods, haven't you, called fruitarians, and all they will do is eat stuff that falls off the trees. They won't pick it off because they say they turn around and say that the lift's over there, love. You want the lift? They turn around and say you're not allowed to pick it off. It gets bloody ridiculous. It's like ludicrous. That's what I said. Next time I see someone that calls themselves a vegan, I'll suss them out straight away. I'll say I'm a very healthy eater. I'll just turn around and say
problem with the sprays and everything, I think it's quite
Well, that's
difficult.
right.
It's quite difficult to call yourself a vegan, actually, but I've not.
You can't do it, Karen. You can't do it because if you turn around and say, because listen, the mainstream is like that dinosaurs existed, right, and then sort of like petrochemicals makes plastics, and not a lot of people know that. It's like the byproducts of it out of crude oil and all that. But the thing is, that is part of that is the packaging. That is the packaging of it. So they can all the vegan can do is grow their own stuff, right? Because they can't even buy stuff they say is organic because that's a load of rubbish. How do you know it's organic? They lie about the shape of the earth. Like what makes you think they're going to tell the truth about the way they grow things?
This is it. Well, all it means is it's not had things sprayed on or added to the soil in the last 3 years. But what is the long-term effect of it anyway?
Exactly.
But it's just finding that balance. I mean, maybe in a few generations things would have changed, but at the moment we can't. We'd be going into a transitional phase. Initially having our own sort of gardens on the Anastasia book idea of the Kinderbank.
Well, that's it. We've forgotten to grow. That's the sad bit. Gary knows. I bet your grandparents had little allotments and growing vegetables. We just go to the plastic. Even me, I go to the plastic supermarket.
Well, instead of chopping down trees for fences and things, you'd have fruit bushes which would create your fences. So by the time you've walked round the garden, you've had breakfast.
I mean, how many people do you know, like under, I don't know, 50 or 60, like they've got an allotment? Not many.
No,
I mean,
we used to. We've almost forgotten that because of the plastic supermarket. And all they've got to do is go, we've got no food coming in. I mean, I find that really strange when you're even talking about the vegan thing. We're in a complete shutdown. Most businesses, self-employed, small businesses, they're all gone or going or broken or whatever. But we can still get vegan food.
That's right. I mean, the only person I've met in the last few years that's got an allotment is Cosmic Cat. She's got like a couple of allotments down in Bromley, but I mean, it's very few and far between because they don't seem to be that many around anymore. They seem to be dismantling them or building blinking houses on them.
Yeah.
I noticed yesterday they're starting to build 2 new housing estates in Newbury. We're already really struggling with infrastructure here, and they're building these 2 great big housing estates. Like, oh my God, that's what they're into. Just money. It's all about money.
If we can't move all the people into a city, then we'll build a city around you. There seems to be the attitude. So with the manipulation of house pricing and sort of forcing people in certain areas because of the prices, and where the work is as well. It's a very, very subtle, slow way of herding people into pens, basically.
It is really. I mean, they don't want people out in the countryside growing their own stuff. They want. I mean, I'm semi-rural where I am. I mean, literally right next door to where I live, I've got a massive big woods that goes all the way like to our Welling. It's fantastic, but you can't really grow anything over there. It's just all like woods. Maybe there's Bigfoot over there. I don't know, our own version, but I doubt it. No, it's very hard, isn't it? Because they want to sheep you all into sort of like into inner cities. They don't want you. They don't want you think. Basically, James, they don't want you thinking for yourself.
No,
we've worked it all out. You don't have to do no thinking. We've done all the thinking for you.
Yeah.
Well,
I think we're here to pick up the pieces and help everybody after.
Well, this is it. Do you know something? I look around me and people now that think we're around a twist them up now. There's going to be a time in this world or the next, like when we're going to be looked up there. The people now that are sort of like, saying, "Oh, where's your mask to us?" and this, that, and the other, and cussing us and one for another. They're going to have to eat humble pie one day.
Well,
and I'll speak. Yeah.
I was going to say, funny you should say that. It sort of dawned on me. I was listening to Ultravox Rage in Eden.
All right.
It straight away reminded me of the song called The Thin Wall. And it's the sort of choruses, and those that laugh will surely fall, and those that sneer will surely die. And about feeling your back against the thin wall, the veil. It's the sort of control of the ego, because the ego will feel frightened. It's the thing that's actually trying to keep us in a comfort zone, which is within the system, and it's stepping into the unknown and having no fear of it.
Well, do you know something, James? What I've always said from a very young age, right? I've always thought this way. materialism and having a bigger this and a bigger that and these clothes and that clothes. Even when I was younger, I mean, even before like, I've known about a lot of the stuff I knew now. I mean, you know, I knew the moon landings were fake when I was 9 years old, but say the intermediate years, nothing ever impressed me, you know. And when people come around with a big flash car, one thing and another, it's like that's what it is. It's all external, isn't it? It's not nothing internal. It's making you want things outside yourself to impress other people. I mean, I told Karen this. Yeah, I told Karen this before. My postman, like, he must have won a lottery or something years ago because when I lived down the road in Potter's Bar, because he come round and showed off his Ferrari, and he wanted me to go, wow, oh, look at that. And I said, oh yeah, mate, it's a car, isn't it? It's just like that Mini over there. Gets your mate a V. And probably everyone else is probably saying to him, oh yeah, this is fantastic, blah blah blah.
Same thing happened to me with one of my sons. I got shouted at. But his wasn't brand new. His was really old, and I was like, you know, because he painted this car up, and when I saw it, it was about 10, 15 years old, and I went, oh, I don't know why, because I was just thinking I was really seeing a newer car.
Well, the bit,
and I got shouted at.
The part I could never understand about all of it is you're sort of collecting, getting bigger, getting nearer, getting more, something that's supposedly more impressive to show to everybody else, and then you get to a certain point, and then you start downsizing, and then getting rid of things, moving into a smaller property, and then potentially going into a home and losing. So it expands up to a certain point, which of course you're paying for, and then you're getting rid of the stuff again and downsizing, and it's like, well, this is just stupid. It's
just ridiculous. It's ridiculous when you think about it, really. Another thing as well, what makes me laugh, people, they strive to get more and more and more, and then you see them like, and you turn around and say, oh, so and so. They say, oh, he dropped dead, girl. He had an heart attack or something. And you think, yeah, you work the poor sort of bleeding death. Yeah. You know, it's like it makes you laugh. They've got a bigger and better house and a bigger car and this, that, and the other, because people are watching the mainstream and they think that's what you've got to do. You know, let's face it, this world we live in, it's all ego based, and it's all based on like how much you've got. People like us, like they care for other people. I mean, you know, I'm forever sort of like. Outside here, where I am now, in the Howard Centre, like, there's always a geezer outside there. I either get him a cup of tea, like, or give him some money to get something to eat. I see people walking past that are probably, you know, well, I ain't got nothing anyway, but they've definitely got a lot more than me. They give them jack shit, but then they'll jump in a lot of their Bentley because it's quite a wealthy area around here, especially Oldwell. And you know, and I think to myself, what are these people like? You know, and let's face it, there's more of them than what there is of us. So what can you do?
Well, I was going to say, Martin Leaker talks about active fasces, and I think what they are in a very subtle way is active fashions. So it's always sold as brand new, impressive, the new style. So trying to create that desire. So you're always continuously replacing. So that is the active fasces, because obviously to pay for the things you've got to work and work and work, and they are just working you to death.
And I mean, you know, the thing is, like, you know, some people are impressed with that. I mean, you know, they might say, "Oh, look at that, so and so's got this, or so and so's got that." But I couldn't give a monkeys. I couldn't care less. I don't care what I wear. I mean, I've got the same pair of jeans on now. I've had them on all bleeding week. Like, you know, they've got. I told Karen this before, like, I was wearing ripped jeans, like, when they weren't around, only because, like, they were ripped.
Yeah. Some of them, though, it's ridiculous. There's more holes in the things than there is material, and it's like, well, if you just kept a pair of jeans, you wouldn't have to pay twice the price for something that's fallen apart in the first place.
Exactly. Well, an ex-girlfriend bought me a pair. Like, said, "You like them ripped jeans, girl?" I said, "Yeah." She worked for River Island up in Luton, like, in the Arndale Centre, and she got me a couple of pairs for Christmas. And when I found out, like, they were like about £80 or something, I thought, "Oh, get it on."
That's ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous, and you know, you're only paying for the name anyway, isn't it? So
it's crazy. It's also, if you go for the cheaper end stuff, it's somebody else somewhere in the manufacture of it in the third world. It's at their expense because they're not getting the money for it. It's going to the corporations. So. Exactly.
Everything's a big con. I think art is, wine. I know wine is. I've read so many things about wine. My mate's into wine, like, and he sent me this thing he got out of the paper, and these like supposedly top wine testers. There's about half a dozen of them, right, James, and like they had wines there, sort of like, you know, from £300-400, and they had Marks and Spencers and Sainsbury's own make, and Marks and Spencers like got top honours. One of their wines got top honours, and I think the Sainsbury's got like another one, but they tried to backtrack afterwards. They turned around and said, "Oh no, it was fruity and this one and another." And I thought, look, mate, at least hold your hands up. Have the balls to hold your hands up and say, look, I don't care what that costs or that costs or this costs. We judged it on a double blind test, and we preferred that and that. But they don't do it, you see, James, because then they're gonna have all these big corporations on their back saying, "Oh, why did you choose that one and not this one?"
Mm. Yeah.
So everything's a big con. I don't know if you've ever seen this thing called, because the whole world's an illusion, called The Artful Codgers. It's about this son and this like dad. I think you can still get it. You can still get it on if you Google it. And what they did, they done loads of things. They used to like copy like works of art, and they done one down a National Portrait Gallery. And it's funny because when we was down Trafalgar Square, Karen, looking around, I was looking at this over around a court over the road, like, you know, and I was thinking about these guys. And what they did one day, they went in there and they copied one in. They took it. I'll tell you what they did. They took some photographs. They went home and done their own one and went. Don't ask me how they done it. They went back and changed it over. And you know, a few days later, they called the curator over and said, "Here, mate, I think that's a forgery." And it was in the paper and everything. This said, "No, it ain't. That's not. No way, that's a forgery." And he said, "Well, no, it is, mate, because I bloody painted it." So my point is like, you know, everything's an illusion, isn't it? It's like
everything's a con, Gary.
What's real? Everything's a con. What's real? What we're going to do in a little while about sort of like where are we? Because we don't really know. And I've got some things to tell you.
It's like one of those maps that said, "You're here."
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, we don't really know. None of us know. And I mean, anyone that turns around and says, like, you know, they say, the A&E map is this and that. I mean, the thing is, they've got to throw that away now, because if they're saying, like, the sun's 3,000 miles away, it's not. It's just there. It's like it's a few miles up in here. You get clouds behind it, don't you?
Yeah.
The apparent sun is there. It's literally, you see, like, planes flying behind it. Whether there's sort of like another sort of like actual sun behind the dome, that's like some kind of mirage effect for a sort of like kind of like you do with a prism. Who knows? But we don't know.
That's the black sun.
Well, we're all like surmising things. What you got to remember, we're dismantling hundreds of years of sort of like all this bullshit.
Since really the 1960s. In the 60s, documentation.
And I think we're all doing wonderfully well. All of us, you know, we're not getting it right all the time, but we're bit by bit, we're dismantling all the bullshit.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I had a Meekin on the other day, and he was bringing up about, you know, the bit where they say the curve is.
You'll have to send that over to me. I haven't seen that. Yeah.
Oh, okay, but it's basically where the R factor is where the light meets the Earth. You know, that's your horizon.
Yeah.
And he was saying, well, theirs is wrong, so it changes everything. So that was good, wasn't it, the other day?
Yeah. It's excellent.
It was good because he was doing mathematics.
Oh, great.
And he's made a little meme and shows he's got two of those oil rigs. They're one was 6 miles and one was 9 miles.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes, that's what we were.
Yeah, well, I mean, how far? I mean, my maths ain't fantastic. How far was that meant to be behind the curve? You're not meant to see all of it anyway, are you?
No, and you could see further on as well, but we couldn't say how far on.
You can't determine how much further. It could be 30 miles, could be 50 miles.
Yeah, but we know. But I mean, we know anyway that we know anyway that sort of like you cannot see. You cannot see like round a curve. You cannot. It's impossible.
There's
going to be a hump. There's going to be a hump in the middle.
It's the limit of your eyesight. Is as far as you can be able to see.
Yeah. We can only see for so many miles with our eyes.
I think it's 3. I believe.
In focus.
It's only about. Yeah.
So it doesn't mean you can't see things, but in focus. Well, the sun's always in focus, so it's got to be less. What you're seeing at that moment, it's got to be closer. And also in the summer, it takes all day to go over your head.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is that they'll come out of every answer in the book rather than hold their hands up, because, you know, all the university training has gone down a pan, and then they're going to lose their job. On Monday morning, they've got to face all all their peers like and say, oh, why did you say that? So they're just going to come out with more mumbo jumbo rather than just sort of like,
well, they've gone too far with the lies to go back, haven't they?
This is it.
They're never going to do it. They're never ever going to do it. They're never going to hold their hands up. And of course, the ones that have, like, have been.
Can you imagine it? They're saying, standing there going, "The world is flat. They're cartoons. They're lies." Yeah, that's what they'd have to do.
Well, they'd also have to account for all the money. I mean, most countries have got a space agency, and I mean these projects are not exactly cheap.
Gary's favourite subject, NASA.
Well, not just NASA. I mean, India's got a space program. China's got a space program. Japan.
They needed the space program so they could fund the people.
Yeah, it's like, well, you need to account for these billions and billions, because as a business model, it's like, for what the amount of money spent, we ain't got a good return on it.
Well, they need a bit of money to make the video to start with, don't they? To lie to us.
Well, can you imagine, like, in America alone, like, if they suddenly realised, if, I don't know how many there is, I mean, it's disputable, but say 240 million like, Americans woke up and realised, like, that all that money that had been thrown down the drain by NASA, it's a sleeping giant. They take over. They could. Their old bloody army, like, and police force couldn't hold them back. You know what I mean? The thing is,
I think a lot of them know it, but they're not awake enough, so they're not gonna. They're just gonna brush it past. But if they really knew the truth,
it also opens up the question. Okay, a certain percentage of that is for the charade, but what have they spent the rest of the money on?
That's it. Do you know something, James? That's what I always think of. I always think to myself, going all the way back now to sort of like, the early 60s, like, even before, like, Gemini project and what, and you think to yourself, now you know that it's all rubbish, and me and Karen have been through this, like, before, like, when people say to me, oh, how did they actually do it? I said, usually the simplest answer is probably the one, and the conspiracy pods of the 70s sussed it out. They just went up in the blinking, in the lift, like, stayed there. The rocket takes off, that lands in the Bermuda Triangle, they come back down, it's easy as pie, the rest is CGI. And I mean, now what they can do is so much better. But the thing is, when you look at it now, it's like that one I said to you the other day, Karen, that new blinking thing that meant to have landed on Mars, like, it's absolutely ludicrous. It's
you that sent me the picture. Someone sent me a picture of Mars.
It was me. I sent it over to you. I took a photograph out of the bleating newspaper and sent it over to you. It's like it's like bleating Captain Caveman. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's like, but people still believe it and they lap it up.
What did you send me, guys? Someone sent me one the other day. I saw it in Facebook and it said, "This is Mars and this is Egypt," and it was the same picture.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the same thing with, like, the last one is Greenland, isn't it? They actually see the landscape. The landscape was exactly the same. I don't know, it was a lot that Beagle or whatever. The one that bloody landed, I don't know. And they superimposed the landscape, and it was in Greenland, and they found a gerbil or something on there.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, there was a. It wasn't a gerbil, but it was something like that, and it was on this picture.
It was meant to be on Mars, wasn't it? Like, and you think I got a gerbil on Mars. But that's not a new thing, I mean, in the first moon landing, Apollo 11, in Australia, they see a Coke bottle. They had a different feed. They had a different feed down there, and they see. And apparently, like, the news station was sort of like deluged. What you got to remember, it's not like a day where they can, like, pause it like we can now, and then, like I do with you, Cal. When I see things, I pause it on my TV and I send it over. They couldn't pause it then, so basically, loads of people just see a Coke bottle, and hundreds of people were phoning up the station, and then they got another feed. And, this was all lushed up. It was in the papers and everything, a Coke bottle on the moon, and now you can actually see a geezer, like, he's got I wear bloody braces, like, because I've got a bit of a belly now, but you see a geezer walk out with braces, like, and a bloody nylon shirt picking up something. But of course you can't see that. You can't see that on a cellulose film because it's going so fast, but you can actually, you've got some people, and I really admire them, they go through frame by frame, and they actually see a guy come out, picking up something, and it's just ridiculous. People just lap it up. I mean, a lot of people, even if they did know that it's all fake, they say, oh, well, it's entertainment, but I mean, that's rubbish. As far as I'm concerned, it's wasting.
I don't think it's entertainment. I think it's taking your freedom away.
I think it's absolutely taking the mick, and what it's trying to do, like, it's trying to present us like with an infinite universe and hiding God again, isn't it? You know, that's what it is.
Taking your freedom away.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
I think NASA is, and the whole idea of space is just one of many tests put upon us. Because if you think about it, if you've got this picture of Mars, what are the chances of you actually finding the exact identical scene in Egypt? Because where would you even look? So that is something they've put out deliberately. I've been saying this for the longest time, James. I think it also indicates that they have to tell the truth, but of course they twist everything. It's in their nature to not tell you the truth in an honest way. So I think it's not, oh, that's a distraction as such. It's just their admission that they are lying, but it's the test on us, and more of us are seeing through all these things they're pulling off on us. So it's. But the thing is, yeah. Sorry. That's all right. Yeah. Carry on. Go on. No, I was going to say, they just put truth drops out there all the time, and it's up to us to pick up on them. I mean, you know, some of the truthers just think, oh no, it's not. They're not putting out little tips and hints, but they've got to be. I mean, it's like Muhammad Atta, like finding Muhammad Atta's bloody passport. You know, is that or the wheel on the ground, like that was sort of like still blown. I mean, the thing is,
well, do you know what? We've even done it back to. We were talking about the Titanic yesterday, Gary. Yeah. And then James was saying, I said, James, how do we know that was real? They could have put the sister ship was always the sister ship. They called it the Titanic. It went off. Nothing ever happened. But to us, we got the crash, the deaths. Because someone, we had a hangout yesterday with someone else, Flat Earth Brothers, and he said they never found any personal artifacts or bones. And you think, really?
I think what the message of the Titanic story is. We've got this immense power and we can do what the hell we want. There's three guys standing in the way of creating the Federal Reserve. So
exactly,
these are the depths we will sink to. We will murder.
It was didn't they wasn't there the Astors?
Yeah, it's the story or the meaning of that story, regardless of whether it happened or didn't happen. That's the message that's coming across. They're basically trying to put fear into everybody, saying we can do what we want. Nobody's standing in our way. We're bulldoze our way through one way or another. They even do that with the Titanic is unsinkable. We can ram an iceberg.
How do we not know that none of that was real?
Exactly.
That they just put the papers out, and that was one of the first. These are the mind controls they did then in 1917. Because we already know Bing Crosby played Hitler and all that. So.
I've also heard another thing about it, where sort of like the Britannic or the Olympic was basically going to be written off because it was falling to bits. So what they did, they just changed them over. There was very little difference between both of them. What they did, they put like the Titanic sort of like emblem was all on the Olympic. I mean, it's easy not to believe and do. I actually see on.
Imagine that, you're sinking the ship and you're going to get the money back. And then you tell the whole world that all these people died and make loads of money out of it that way.
And then if you're White Star Line, you send a bill to the relatives of the deceased that were employed them and saying you owe us money for the uniform because it's property of White Star Line.
I think it was probably like a lot of these things, like 9/11. Yeah. It wasn't just one. It weren't just for one reason. Say the actual the Britannic or the Olympic lot was going to be they're going to lose millions on it. Like let's say it's a Titanic, we can sink it, get the insurance money off of that. And there's also at the same time like to get rid of a few bankers that didn't want to go along with the Federal Reserve. So it's not always just one reason, James, is it? It can be a multitude. Like 9/11, it weren't just one reason. It was like the wars. They got two.
Oh yeah, they always like with Hitler thing, and he was taking the children, destroying the buildings. That's two of the things he was doing. And then there's more. There's always a list of things which they're doing together.
How about if I said that even the Titanic was predictive programming? There was a book in there was a book 24 years previous.
It's called the Titan, wasn't it?
Yeah, 1888, and it's the same story of a ship hitting an iceberg. And I think it even goes from Southampton in the story. And that was written in or published in 1888, and then 24
Well, we were
years
wondering
later,
yesterday why it went from Southampton. You know, it should have gone from London, or.
Well, I think I'm not London.
I suppose it's on the ferry thing then, isn't it? If it's coming.
It's on that south coast. It's
Yeah.
easier to go across from there, but because London, you'd have to come out the Thames and come back on yourself around Kent. So I suppose for speed, just ship everybody down. Excuse the pun, by train.
I don't think, you know, like when you actually see what ships look like today, and then you see the Titanic. The Titanic is small. It doesn't look wonderful at all. It just looks like it's just got 4 tunnels on it. You know.
Yeah.
Not tunnels, funnels.
I mean, what you've got to remember is that the controllers that control this place, that they sort of like pass on all their knowledge like to their children, and it goes to their children's children and all the rest of it. So the thing is, you know, what you were saying there a minute ago, James, about predictive programming, of course they were doing it then, because they had all the knowledge to do it. They said, right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to sort of like, we're going to write a book. I mean, it's like now. You know, me and my mate. Now, my mate is not a weight at all, like, but he said to me the other day. He said, "Gal," he said, "I'm so pissed off." I said, "What's that, Ken?" He said, "Every other like advert on the because he likes watching Poirot and things like that. When I'm down here, I have to sort of like watch him with him and sort of like Midsummer Murders and all this." But he's right what he's saying. He said every single advert is all about like this smart insurance, London insurance, this, that, and the other.
Yeah, last year it was all about cancer.
Gambling.
Yeah, now you go to YouTube, every advert comes up is gambling.
And I'm thinking to myself, do they know something that we don't? I.e., like all the people that are getting a jab, like they're going to start dying off because they got all these insurance adverts on. Literally, it's one. No, it's just literally, it's one after the other. It's continuous. It's one.
It's so boring. What do they think we are? Idiots? They must think we're stupid.
Well, they just want to sort of pop off.
Or is it that they're so immune to it that most people aren't listening to any of the adverts or anything, but just every now and again, then one person will.
Well, why is it? You know, it's what we spoke about.
Because they said that they're losing money on these adverts.
We can see all this so easy. Like you see it, you think to yourself, you put two and two together, you say, why is all these adverts like? You know, all of a sudden, like with all these like insurance, take out this insurance and that insurance, like whereas before you'd get one, and you'd get another one in a week's time, or one in another. They're doing it all together. It's like they're taking us all off. I think they are. Who knows?
It's an ugly world, isn't it, Gary?
It's horrible. It really is. It's like the trouble is that
Gary, I get quite a few comments about that now on my channels, that people don't like living here anymore.
I don't. I think to myself, you know, as bad as what it was before, like, you know, a couple of years ago, I would still fly out to bleeding Portugal, like, and see my friends when I wanted to. I could still do this, I could still do that. And I was just saying, like, I text my friend Samantha in Portugal last night, and I said to her, you know, I'm not sure if I can come out anymore. Of course, it's the same thing with her coming back, isn't it? You know, if you've got to have a vaccine to travel, you're stuffed. I mean, whether you can do it over land, I don't know. I mean, whether
we saw a couple of planes going over the UK yesterday, but they're high, so they weren't landing here. I don't see any planes low going to Heathrow. I think Heathrow's shut.
Well, it's the absence of planes is noticeable, isn't it?
They're going over our country because other countries aren't in lockdowns like we are, but they're not coming here. And you think, why would they do that? We're the gateway to the rest of Europe and stuff.
Funny how
people land here and get a connecting flight and then go somewhere else.
It's funny how everything comes over here. They never go across the Pacific. It's all across the Atlantic.
Yeah, we did this the other day, that people don't realise. So they put this flat map in front of you, and they've got America this end and Australia that end, and all the flights are crossing. They don't realise they're not going round that bit. Not going round. They're going across. Yeah. And if you want to go to Russia from America, you can't just go the 50, 60 miles over the Bering Straits. You have to come all the way this way and do it over 24 hours, and people still don't get it. Yeah. I mean, that's just so ridiculous, isn't it? It's got, you know, like, in a sense, when you're in America, you're only a couple of, well, say 200 or 300 miles away from Russia. But what you've got to do is, you've got to come all the way over Europe and do, like, thousands of miles just to get there. Yeah. Why don't people wake up and realise that?
They've centred Russia, the sort of main part of Russia, in the very western edge of it, to sort of attach it to Europe, and sort of, It's almost like an unknown, anything beyond that, beyond the Ural Mountains, right across to the Pacific coast. It's
When I looked
strange.
it up, there wasn't that many towns in that
Yeah.
part of Russia.
No.
You know, there are towns, but they're probably hundreds of miles apart. It's a big piece of land with only so many people living on that bit.
And curiously,
Why is that? Maybe there's something with the sun there.
well, curiously, all the trees seem to be under about 300 years old. There's no old trees. It's like, what's happened?
Except the redwoods.
Mm.
There are some trees that survived, but a lot of the trees didn't. And then they're saying, was it Miriam saying they cut them all down to make the masts for the ships and the beams in the houses? They cut them all down, but I mean, when they were talking about the past, there's always a load of people in it, like more than now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
We watched this video yesterday of 1960s. They were at Waterloo Station. It was crammed, wasn't it? Absolutely crammed.
Yeah.
Well,
With people.
I mean, think about the stories. Was it Attila the Hun coming from sort of what would be Mongolia area, and
What, and 20 million people died?
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, where did he get this army from? I mean, a town is what, probably 20 tents in Mongolia or parts of Afghanistan.
We watched The Truth the other day, didn't we? Didn't we, James?
Yeah.
We watched this old film. What was it called? King of Jutland.
King of Jutland, yeah.
So it was in Denmark. How many people did the king have?
It's basically a village, wasn't it?
It had about 20 people.
Yeah, sort of 6 co-conspirators and the village maybe.
So was that more the truth? When you were a king, you had like 20, 30 people that you were looking after.
Yeah.
Not 25 million. They always put these big figures on it. They want us to think that there was all these people here. I just don't think there was. And I just don't know. And we can't prove anything.
I'm wondering, another thing as well, I'm wondering like whether population figures are highly exaggerated, you know, saying there's 6 billion people. Is there that many? I mean, can it be
that
proved?
has been done. Somebody went on Wikipedia and wanted, and you can pull up a list of cities in China over 2 million, I think it is. And then the calculation made from that, you'd have to have the other billion people in all these other settlements, and it doesn't add up. And another person had tried doing the same and found the same result with India. So I do dispute this 7.5
Well, do you know, I'd
billion.
like to know, through my research, when I realised that that Russia owned this big part of China, and there were wars, but not enough for them to give up half of China, to give it to China. So these towns were Russian, and they're in China now, but they weren't originally. So what happened there? How come Russia gave up all this land to China? Like, that's what the wall was. China went to the wall.
You've got this.
That was the boundary line to keep everybody out.
You've got this preposterous sudden increase from about 1900 in the world population. That, I mean, again, you go on Wiki, it says something like 1 billion in 1900.
What about that ride, the big wheel in that World Fair? It took 2,000 people a ride. How many people were they thinking were coming?
That's crazy.
Some of those buildings were 9 acres big.
But if you do sort of think about the calculation from 1900 a billion, so it's an increase of 6.5 billion. Now we've had 2 world wars, we've had the Vietnam War, we've had outbreaks.
Is that what it's for? We want everybody to die, make a war, send them over there and kill them.
Well, if the population has been sort of 1 billion in 1900, and then it looks to be fairly static with a slight increase, but then it's this sudden surge. But we've had all these conflicts and.
But don't forget, in those days they were having
everything.
13 children a family.
Yeah, cancer.
We're lucky if we get 2 now.
That's down to economics, isn't it? Because that era they wouldn't have had mortgages or cars. They wouldn't have had loans. They wouldn't have had all the material gadgets and things, the washing machines, all things that people buy on HP these days. So it's just, I think they had a harder physical life back then, and I think they had.
Now it's a mental
children.
one, isn't it? Now you get a mental hard.
It could be another reason they had so many children. It may be that they've got a memory of what was, or they needed. You need so many people for the infrastructure to work. So there may have been another reason why they had so many children, rather than the one they said it's always safety in numbers, because so many of them aren't going to live for very long. So
some people used to die in their 30s and 40s, didn't they? They worked like in coal mines and stuff like that. You know, and if we should see sort of like retirement age.
I've looked at parish registers, original documents in various records offices, and in the 1800s and even the 1700s, you do get mention every now and again of ages, and they're living just as long as we do today. There's no
yeah, and I was
change in
looking
it.
at the graveyard in the 1800s. The people were dying in their 70s and 80s.
Yeah, okay, you've got more infant mortalities and things than now. But if the people got through all that, they lived into their 70s and 80s and 90s. So that's another myth. I mean, the original documents, these parish registers, it's actually written in there, unless they've been faking all that as well. So that
I think that's the saddest bit. We just live in a fake world.
Everything's fake, isn't it?
It's a fake world.
Well,
fake globe.
When you compare the information, it just shows that they're lying. Their own information conflicts with itself. It's inconsistent.
That's right. We just don't know what to believe anymore, do we?
No.
We have to sort of like use our own initiative and use our own judgment on everything. We don't know what is real and what is fake. You know.
This is it.
Everything. We've been lied to on such a grand scale that, yeah, but you know another thing as well, if you go to a lot of graveyards, I've done this, because I know Martin's done it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to catalogue.
Oh, we've just... Oh, he's back now.
Hello?
Yeah, he's back.
Yeah, if you look at, you don't see gravestones sort of like going back sort of like 18, I don't know.
Yeah, one doesn't come up to you and says 15 something. Do you know what that's about? Do you know why that is, I think we're looking at it wrongly. What it is when I went to that Alf with Marie Wheatley, and we went to that Long Barrow, and then we went to this church, and she was telling me that it was a pagan building first. So that's why, because the people are getting buried in the churches. They weren't getting buried at the pagan places.
I used to map out.
So that's maybe why we don't see that's why we're not seeing it. So when you say you see a burial thing and it says 17 or 1800, that's when the churches came. And that's why people are buried in the church ground.
But what about, you know, all the people that have lived and died, like, you know, the billions and billions and billions of people, you think, where are they? Well, I know a lot of them have been cremated, but it just doesn't make sense. You know, it's just, it doesn't seem like. I suppose. I mean, when have they been cremating since the Middle Ages or what?
Well, they just weren't buried. They're buried out there somewhere else, and that's not buried. They're buried in churches when the buildings went from pagan buildings to churches. That's when they started being buried. That's why people can't find tombstones, because before that there were pagan buildings and obviously not burying them there.
I've mapped out about 15 churchyards, and I found one plaque in a church that says 1492, which is very childlike. I can, off the top of my head, I can remember about 3. They're more like footstones than headstones from the 1600s. You start getting a few in the 1700s. When you get into around about 1880, you start getting these weird and wonderful designs and
that's what monuments. I think churches took over, was in the 1800s.
There's
and that's why you can only find those tombstones from them, because when they were pagan buildings, they weren't being buried there. When they became churches, because what it is we just assume that churches have been here from dots, but they haven't. They've only, because I realised only a few weeks ago that the Tsar of Russia was trying to make a new religion. They just didn't want to go to the Pope, so it was almost the same, except you weren't going to the Pope. But he was putting cornerstones in churches, and then when Marie Wheatley told me that this was a pagan building, it looked just like a church, but now it's a church.
But you don't.
So you realise that they were pagan buildings till about the 1800s. So churches have only been here for 100, 150 years.
You don't get anything in the architectural design or style of the building that indicates it's Christian. There are always things that are added, either stuck on afterwards or...
That's what I'm saying. You know, the really weird thing is, the Notre Dame was supposed to be built in 1011 something.
Yeah.
That was a pagan building. Westminster Abbey built the same sort of time, same sort of church, a pagan building. But one is Catholic and one is Protestant.
Yeah, well,
they're the same buildings. They were built at the same time with those big things coming out.
You get no hint of a civil war in these parish registers with the baptisms and marriages and deaths of that period. You wouldn't tell there was a war
Something
going
must
on.
have happened. They just took over.
Yeah. When you get into the 1800s, you get mention of in the marriages where it says member of the third, whatever, Sussex militia or the Derbyshire militia at the time of the Napoleon things. But the Civil War periods, there's 1625 to 1660, there's very few parish registers. There's a huge gap with potentially 3 generations missing. So something definitely happened then. It ties in with
when Marie told me that, I'd never really put it in my mind that, you know, when you think of pagan, you think before Jesus almost. But actually, it wasn't. It was only, you know, it's the 1800s they were bringing churches in.
It's an umbrella term. From a Christian
for them, for Christians, I mean.
From a Christian perspective, anything that isn't Christian would be called pagan.
Yeah, but we're talking of the Notre Dame.
Yeah.
We're talking of Westminster Abbey, big churches.
Yeah,
I mean, how did they build all those 1,000 years ago?
Yeah.
But if you see like the building that's gone into them, like, you know, the construction.
Well, you said
superb.
Gary. He was talking to someone, and what building was it? And you asked them, could they construct this today? And they said no.
It was about 7 times I asked this question. It just happened there was a local builder's van near a church or a similar sized structure, and I always posed the question to them: if money was no object, could you make an exact copy of this building right down to the same materials and the same size, same proportions? And they've all said no. And these are professional builders. If they don't know the answer to that.
Maybe what it was they were pagan buildings, but they always referred, whenever they talked about them, they always put them in as churches, and then people just over a decade forgot that they weren't pagan buildings, that they were churches.
The official narrative implies that we're using what we compared to today, very flimsy wooden horse and cart for transporting everything, and obviously
this is what I was saying the other day, wasn't it? How did they? I mean, the transportation is the one big thing that sort of like nullifies all we've been told about it, because, you know, me being sort of like in the courier industry for 35 years, and I was working, I picked up on this years ago. I thought, how would you call all this stuff like taken from A to B? And you know, in my job, like, I was speaking to lorry drivers, and they all said the same thing. It's lorries go. I said, no, this was built long before lorries were around, my friend. You know, before trains, anything. So we've been
told. Do you know what we realised yesterday? You know, Donington Castle. We have a castle. Well, it's supposed to be a castle, but do you know the one thing that wasn't on the plaque? You know, when you get those things, archaeology. You know, like when you go to Silbury Hill, it's got this big British thing on there. They didn't have that at Donington Castle. It was just a local one, but it says that it was a. What do you call it? It was a thriving residential property. Fortified,
Yeah, fortified residential.
But it's called castle now, but it wasn't. It was just a fortified residence.
Even a lot of the churches, the towers, have got a very castle-like top to them as well. So.
I mean, even that, I said to Gary, it's supposed to be built in 14-something. They can't just slap that up. You'd have had to have plans and architects and. There's no way you can just slap up a castle with turrets. I'm sorry, or a house with turrets.
What about cranes? What do they do with cranes?
And don't forget, they're building things on top of hills.
Yeah.
It's not like they're on the road, is it? So they've got a flat surface to do it on. They're always building them up on top of things in the middle of nowhere.
It's even the design of them, the intricate detail at the top of the building that you can't really see, and it's like, why go to all that trouble and expense? It doesn't serve any purpose, no function to it. It's just seems to be all decorative, and it's like, well, I can't appreciate it up there. Why not bring it lower down where I can actually see all this wonderful artwork in stone and things on the buildings? And why are they always on the top? Doesn't make sense.
We don't quite know that yet, do
we? It's just ludicrous. They're overcomplicated.
Well, you've got an idea that, like, Waterloo train station was a Zeppelin hangar.
Yeah, all the London railway terminals, the canopies are so high up. I know the argument could be said, it's because of the smoke, but they have outlets under those roofs. they're just massive. I mean, the story we're getting about the railways is they're struggling for money and have to be bailed out by the government several times.
Yeah, so we haven't got roads. We've got
Yeah.
no roads. We're struggling. We haven't really got trains, but we can build these great big buildings.
Yeah.
We've got no roads, no trains.
I've got the machinery. I mean, the main thing, another thing as well, if you look at going to any building site, which I've done numerous times, obviously, where's all the machinery? I mean, a lot of that is sort of like electric. You know, some of it is petrol driven or diesel driven, generators, all the rest of it. I mean, that alone. You know, to think that these things were built with just a little guy standing there on a little bloody plinth with a hammer and chisel.
The little horse and carts.
It's absolutely laughable.
Yeah.
And not just that, we did a bit of research as well, Gary, into Doggerland. Doggerland was next to England, and Miriam said it was the land of the giants. But basically, when she was in Belgium, she saw this road going into the sea, but over a few years she noticed that they were covering it up. So they might not have got rid of everything, they've just spent time covering it up. Like putting brick in front of buildings that have got pillars on, so you think it's just a brick building, but behind the brick are pillars. So they haven't destroyed everything, they've covered some of it up.
I'm going to give you...
But basically they were called like causeway roads to... I think Doggerland was probably a bit more marshy like and quite low, but they would have had like causeway roads to like St Jean de Monts, you know, the where the churches are. There's Mont St Michael in England and there's Mont St Michael in France, isn't there? That's it, yeah. So you've got causeways going to those places, and that's probably what it was. It was all connecting up like that. So maybe some of it was water, but they had roads there, and you're like, wow.
Let me give you two.
I mean, England was twice the size it was.
I'll give you two narratives which are easily proven. The first, just look at these old buildings. Take St Pancras railway station, the hotel above it. How accurate the symmetry of these things are. The size of the windows, they're all equally spaced. Now you've got thousands and thousands of reports from the 1800s of giants being found, and you've basically got a professional like a doctor there saying, oh, this would have been someone who's 12 foot or 15 foot. Now they say, oh no, they've got the figures wrong. Well, if they can build buildings accurately, which would need measurements, I don't think they're going to confuse 6 foot with 15 foot.
Hardly.
So it's like, on the one hand, they can do everything accurately. On the time scale, they say these buildings.
Well, look how accurate the Notre Dame was. And Westminster Abbey is.
But they can't estimate the height of a corpse or a skeleton.
Well, they definitely don't want us to really know the truth about the past, because there is no past, is it? When churches come, there is no past.
Well, like I said the other day, I think everything previous to 150 years ago, we don't really know, do we? No. None of us know.
No.
It's just a story, isn't it?
It's just his story. We can surmise things, but we don't know, and this is why, you know.
I mean, the late 1800s especially to the Second World War, they were carting people around, like putting them in you know, like isolating them in, what do you call them, they call them mental institutions, but they're not. Me and James looked them up, and we were just, I think that was what it was at the very beginning of looking at it. Me and James were looking at these photographs in Victorian time, and then comes the asylums. They've got gardens to them. They're like villages, and you're like, well, what are they there for? How come they've just gone to America and they've got all these asylums?
Well, same with Australia. I think the story is that the settlers sort of start going there about 1820. 20 years later, in 1814, you've got this palace-sized asylum, I think, in Perth, that accommodates so many hundred.
But they weren't
people.
Asylums, were they?
No,
but they were quarantine places.
This is the thing.
And they were taking our children.
These numbers.
I mean, maybe what it was is they only started really filling this pod up in the 1800s.
These figures they quote that were supposed to be inmates in these
But
asylums.
from something
it's
else.
Like, well, what's going on? That there's all these people, this large percentage of the population are all allegedly mad.
I'll tell you what I think's really sad is that if America had all these people in it and cultures and different coloured people, everybody was living peacefully, and they destroyed that to put this system in. Oh, how great's that?
Divide and conquer, create the haves and the have-nots.
And we're also thinking that bloodlines... Floss, come here. Floss! Come here, Floss! Flossie! I don't trust her. Yeah, she is. We think it's all to do with bloodlines. Like, what blood type are you? Maybe that's what they're waiting for. We'll distinguish the A types. We'll distinguish the B types. You know what I mean? I think it's something to do with bloodline. Your bloodline, what your blood type is. Now, today, I'm saying.
Well, I think a lot of what's been going on for the best part of a year now, is, I hate to say it, like it's a we's all us like that, because I don't see many people where I live. I don't see many people without a mask, and when I do, it's great. I speak to a young couple.
Gary, you did today.
I see a young couple the other day in Aldi's, and they're walking around as bold as brass without a mask on. When they come out, I started talking to them, and I said, fair play to you, mate, you know, about your mask and whatever. And he said, no, mate. I said, you do know they're all rubbish, don't you? And he said, yeah, of course I do. So there are some young people that are taking
Gary,
up
we went out yesterday to this Newbury castle, and when we were walking up there, there must have been about 70 people walking towards us without masks. They'd all been up there.
Fantastic.
And I was like, wow, I should have filmed it, shouldn't I?
Yeah, in the open air I see it a lot, but I don't see it much in supermarkets, I must admit.
So it's okay for us to go out, walk around together without masks on?
Well, I've not been challenged. My experiences.
Well, once in Tesco's.
Yeah. Well, that's just because
he was going, where's your document? I mean, it doesn't matter what document you bring out. It could say McDonald's on it. As long as it says you don't have to wear a mask, they accept it.
He said to me, prove it. I said it's internal. I said, how can I prove it to you?
Oh, hang on. We've lost Gary. One second, let's turn it off for a second. Earth calling Gary! We've got Gary back!
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, we lost you for a bit. We lost you because you're that far away. We lost you for a bit, but you're back now.
Yeah.
What else did you want to talk about, Gary?
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about, like, with my investigation of sort of like of time slips and the connection maybe with the Mandela effect. And I've got a couple of little things on my phone which I would like you and James to listen to, and another thing as well, to get your perspective and think of yourself. We can analyse it and say what are the possibles about it. Okay, I'll give you number one, right? There was a guy in June 1950, and he suddenly appeared like wearing 19th century clothing. He was wandering aimlessly like a headless chicken on an intersection in New York City. Now, the day's man was walking around in circles and then killed by a taxi and killed. He was hit by a taxi and killed. When the body was examined, things become pretty bizarre, actually. The man was about 30 years old, but his clothes were about a century out of date, right down to the shoes that were fastened with old oversized buckles. The man was carrying loads of odd stuff, old banknotes with dates preceding the 1870s, a 5-cent copper token for beer at a saloon no one ever heard of. Anyway, basically, they thought, who the hell is this guy, you know? Anyway, they got a name and address out of him, and his name was Rudolph Fence. Now, the thing is, a guy in the missing persons department in the New York PD thought, well, I'm going to check who's this guy out, you know, this looks like a bit of a clown, this guy, he's been at a fancy dress party or something. Anyway, they couldn't find him. They couldn't find head or tail of him. So what this guy had done, he's very clever, he looked in the phone book and he see a listing for Rudolph Fence Jr. in the telephone directory dated 1939. Now, this led this policeman to a lady who claimed to be the widow of the said Rudolph Fence Jr. And this lady would tell a story to make everything really bizarre. she claimed that 31-year-old Rudolph Fentz Sr. has mysteriously disappeared while out on his daily walk. Ready for this? In 1876, when her husband had only been a child. At the time, the authorities apparently launched a massive investigation into the disappearance. Turned up no trace of the missing man. He'd vanished without a trace. Intrigued by this new information, Rim then supposedly checked missing person records from 1876 and found, to astonishment, that indeed this Rudolph Fentz had disappeared that year during an evening walk and was never found. Now, the thing is, you know, this is all well documented. This is a document case. Now, what can we say about this? We can't really say this has just been made up because the proof of the pudding is there. They had details of the bloke. I don't know what to say. I mean,
Gary, you don't
I'm
think we're living in the tomorrow, people? Do you remember them where they could go through those different?
Well, I'm wondering, like, if we all share. Remember, I said this because I say things that some troopers find like hard to believe. You know, I wonder what time actually is, and maybe we're just sort of like everything is now. It's like we all got different timelines, and it's all connected. I mean, it's absolutely bizarre, really.
What do you make of that then, James?
I mean, how do you explain something like that? I mean, I don't know. I really don't.
So what was it? It was all documented in a newspaper, Gary.
It was documented. I'll give you his name. You can check it out. His name is Rudolph. I've got loads of them here. His name was Rudolph Fentz. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you one that's like that's.
He's got the answer.
Right, listen to this, right? In October 1979, this was on Arthur C. Clarke's World of Mysterious World. Jeff and Pauline Simpson and Len and Cynthia Gisby set out from Dover on a touring holiday. Basically, I'm not going to go through it, but they was going to travel through France, spend a couple of weeks in Spain, then motor back up. Well, anyway, the weather took a turn for the worse when they was near Avignon. So they see like this little motel. And when they went in there, they thought, my God, this an awful look sort of like old. They found there was no tablecloths on the tables, no telephones, no lifts, no pillows on the beds, no locks. They just thought this was really strange. The windows had no shutters, but they couldn't believe it. They looked at the geezer behind the counter. He looked completely out of dress, like in Victorian dress. Two gendarmes walked in, and they were wearing old-fashioned garb, which I later found out the uniforms had been worn by gendarmes prior to 1905. Anyway, then this is where it gets really strange. So the next day, they had to pay their bill, and their bill came to 19 francs. Then they had a meal the night before, which basically comes down to, in relative terms today, like paying a fiver staying in Claridge's, you know. Anyway, they took a load of pictures of their wives and one thing and another and head down to Spain. When they come back, they thought, let's go and find a little hotel again and spend another night there. They couldn't find it. It was absolutely disappeared. Now, you could turn around and say, oh, that was another thing. When they got back home, when they had their pictures developed, all the pictures come out apart from the ones at this hotel. You know, the bloke was a reasonable photographer. Everything else come out. But the thing is, you could turn around and say, well, actually, I just think they've made it all up. You know, that is a possibility. But then you think to yourself, well, hang on a minute. What are you looking for, mate? Upstairs, yeah, upstairs.
Out the back?
What are you looking for? Marks and Spencer's?
No, this company.
Oh, you want to get out?
Yeah, but not that way.
Up the other end, mate, up the other end. But you have to go up the lift. Oh, you can go that way. I think you can go that way. Yeah, so anyway, you could turn around and say, but are you really going to... These people are actually on Yorkshire TV, so obviously like all and sundry are going to see them. Would they have made something like this up?
Well,
you know what I mean? What are you going to make... Are you going to... the thing is, say for argument's sake, my girlfriend turned around and said to me, here, look, I'll tell you what, it's not like they're going to make a load of money out of it, is it? You know, what they're going to get from Yorkshire TV, like £20, £30 or something in 1979? It's very bizarre.
Well, there's a channel on YouTube called My Disney Channel, and you can watch the film absolutely free. It stars Christopher Reeve. In this story, he's a writer, and he graduates from university, and this old lady comes along and puts a pocket watch in his hand and says, "Come back to me." He's intrigued about this, And he starts doing some historical research and finds this lady in her younger days was this quite successful actress. Then he goes to another university, to this older professor who proposed an idea that time isn't linear. And then he's very specific. He goes and gets clothes and even right down to coins. And he says, I don't want it any nearer than 1912 in this coin dealer's shop. And then he goes back to his room and he's got a cassette tape and it's repeating over and over again. The year is, well, it says the date, it's something like Monday, 27th of July, 1912. And he's pacing up and down, he gets frustrated. In the end, he lays on the bed and he goes into a dream and he goes into this reality and he lives a life in 1912. The only reason he comes out of it one time, he'd got a coin that was from the time of this, in the present day in this film, and it brings him back into this reality. And it begs the question, when you dream, when it can feel so vivid and lifelike, what is the reality, the real reality? Is this a type of dream? Because everything can feel as real in that one. So maybe that guy had gone forward in time because he'd imagined the future or he'd found opened some gateway and come in. I mean, it's also
sounds like the film Millennium. They had a gateway.
Catweasel as well. He comes from, was it
a lot of people, James, don't like talking about this subject. They say it's too far out. But when you've actually got like proof like this, I mean, I've got to tell you this one. What I told you like on Friday about this guy. I mean, if nothing else, this is like really funny about this guy. Like his name was Andrew Carlson. This is only in like the year 2003, and he turned $800 investment into 350 million in a matter of about like, I don't know, three or four weeks. I know it's something ridiculous. Yeah. No one's ever done it before. And this is when people were losing money. Now he turned around and said like he'd come from like, hang on a minute, I'll tell you here, from the year 2256. Well, I mean, you know, that sounds pretty laughable. But the FBI come round, and this is all documented. His name's Andrew Carlson. They arrested him because they thought, oh, this guy's got to be inside a trading. And obviously, he come out with all this jargon to them saying, oh, I'm not from here. Well, obviously, you know, he's trying to say, well, I come from the future, so I know what all the stocks and the shares are going to be up, so that's how I made me money. But this is where it gets really bizarre. Now, if he made all that money, you know as well as I do, you can go and sort of like kill someone and get bail. You can go and do what you want in this country. I don't like talking about kids and all that because it breaks me up. But you can do what you want in this country or America, and you can get sort of like these things called bail bond. Like you see this guy, this dog the bounty hunter go round when they break their bail. But I don't think this geezer would have got bail. Apparently someone bailed him out for $1 million, and then he just disappeared. But I remember at the time, my memory's as sharp as a die, it really is. I remember at the time like that, what actually happened was he got locked up in a cell, and when the duty officer went to get him out for something, he weren't there. He disappeared, and then all his stuff, all his personal. Listen, I've not always been an angel. Like all your personal possessions get taken off you, like, and put somewhere else. All his personal possessions disappeared, and first of all, they thought the arresting officer, he's been given a backhander here. So, you know, he probably turned out, you know, like he said to him, hey, look, how about if I give you 20 million out of my 350 million, like, you know, it's going to be more than your pension. But, you know, it just doesn't make sense. And they never caught the geezer. And to this day, the case is still open to find the bloke. Now, whatever happened to the 350 million, we do not know. I mean, that's open to conjecture.
He couldn't take it with him, though, could he? Because it would have disappeared.
Well, the thing is, like, you know, if nothing else, it's a very funny story.
Maybe he was going, abort the mission, bring me back. Do you
know, I always think of what could have happened. Well, we know sort of like that's probably all the constructs anyway. When you see like the ticker tape going across, the elite probably know what's going to come.
Well, I was wondering if that's how we lived our lives, Gary. Like, you know, I watched this film called Millennium, and it had Cheryl Ladd and Chris Christopherson. And she met him in a different way to he met her. She met him as an adult, then as a child, then as an adult. And he met her as a child. She saved him on the plane. He was one of the only people that survived the plane crash. And what it was is they were taking the people off the planes who were going to die, so they weren't changing the history. And then they put fake bodies back on the planes. They took the people and they sent them through a gate to another future, because they came from the future and their world was dying. So they needed to change the past without changing anything. In, you know, like the butterfly effect. Anyway, they caused a paradox. They caused a paradox because somebody died and shouldn't have died. So they caused a paradox. They put two parts of something of their equipment together and it electrocuted them. So that was a film that was out in the 80s. I mean, I actually think that, you know, is it that this life I'm now, you know, 2020, if I'd been here before, I could have been, maybe I was with Cleopatra last time, and next time might be within the 1600s. I don't know. Like, you go through these different time zones. It's like these people.
The thing is, that's right. I mean, it's like at the moment, I feel like I'm not right here. I feel like, I mean, I'm sure you must feel this as well, and James, I feel like I'm not. I don't feel comfortable here. I feel like I've been shifted to an alternative reality, and maybe like we've got.
Yeah, we're in the wrong parody or something. It's like everything's wrong.
Yeah. We've been shifted to a slightly different sort of like a different sort of like place. You know what I mean? Like it looks the same, but it isn't. If you know what I mean, because it just doesn't. I don't feel like this is the same place I was born in. You know.
Well, we said that before. You know, like the 80s, 90s. It all seemed so simple and easy. Now it's just the more you know that it's not. It's the harder it gets, but the more you know, it's just all different.
But you see, the thing is, there's another one here. Now, there's a place in Liverpool called Bold Street. This is a very well-known place, and I've got a funny feeling that sometimes, like, structures hold frequencies, and they can come out if the conditions are right, and it's. On a Sunday, let me just tell you, on a sunny day in July 1996, an off-duty policeman called Frank, he don't even want to know. Now, I see the bloke on the TV, but they pixelated his face because, you know, let's face it, policemen, they've got to be so careful because they're going to get ribbed if nothing else. You know, all their work colleagues. Went shopping with his wife Carol in Liverpool city centre. This was only a few years ago, remember. She went to buy a copy of Irving Welsh's Train Spotting at Dillon's bookshop on Bold Street, while Frank went to purchase a CD at HMV in Ranelagh Street. He bumped into a friend, had a chat. Anyway, he strolled into Bold Street to meet his wife. Upon strolling in, he thought, hello, this place looks strange. And he said he noticed people walking around with clothes from the 1950. Frank was startled by a loud horn and a box van with the name Kaplan's on the side sped past him. Crossing the road, Frank saw in place of Dillon's bookshop was a large store with the name Cripps over its entrance, with a huge display containing women's handbags and shoes. Frank saw a young woman dressed in clothes in the mid-90s, which I would do, like hipster stuff. And he turned around and said to her, can you see what I'm seeing? She said, yeah. She said, and she's had a Miss Selfridge bag, so she's obviously like from the same era as him. So does this not look right to you? I said, no, it don't. The modern girl entered the Cripps looking baffled, and suddenly the old street reverted back to 1996. And basically, it seemed like they had a little time slip. I mean, I can't think of what else. Maybe like I said, buildings hold frequencies from before, and like certain conditions can make the reality change. I mean, there's not much else you can sort of like say about that one.
Maybe it's those things on the top of the buildings.
But what you got to remember, a lot of these people, they've got nothing to gain but everything to lose by coming forward. Karen, like a policeman. I mean, it's like, I don't know if you remember back in the 70s. I mean, now I don't believe in extraterrestrials anymore. I think they're interterrestrials. But a guy called Alan Godfrey, he said he was driving through Todmorden in like Yorkshire, and he see a massive UFO, which he thought was a UFO, right in front of him. And he got out and he went up and he said, my God, he said, I can touch this thing. And the thing took up. But can you imagine, like, when he went back to the police station, he'd been better off, like, keeping his trap shut. Now, he's still alive today, this bloke, but what he see, who knows? Is it I think it's an interterrestrial.
Or he could have been seeing someone from the future.
It could have been, maybe you see something come in the future, but you know something, these are credible witnesses. They've got nothing, it's like us, you know what we go through with our friends and family. I mean, you know, some of my family, when I used to go and stay with my uncle down at Kentish Town like, and say to him, I'm going down to Flat Earth meeting like in Hyde Park, he was, oh, here we go, you know what I mean? So it's not something you broadcast unless you want to, because there's no gain in it. All right, there are exceptions.
But they do like the stories, don't they, to keep everybody going?
Well, like I told you the other day, like, there are exceptions, you know. It's not all good news. In the last few years, like, Bob Gimlin has died, who was one of the guys in the famous, like, Patterson-Gimlin photograph, video film in 1967 at Bluff Creek of the first, supposedly, filmed Bigfoot. And he's on his, now, Patterson died a long time ago. He never said anything, but on his deathbed, he said, oh no, he said it was a guy like, we had a guy in a suit. Now you've got people from the Bigfoot community that have been saying for years, oh yeah, this is real, blah, 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 this, that and the other. Their reputation's at stake now because them guys are millions out of that. They sold that film so many times. But these people I'm just talking about, there's no financial gain. I mean, it's going to cause them nothing but grief. You know, people can, when I've showed this to people before, they turn around and say to me, oh no, Gal, these people are exhibitionists. Can you imagine, like, the two women that they was on Yorkshire TV, when they go down to the Derby and Joan Club or go to the supermarket or whatever, there's going to be finger pointing, oh look, she sees fairies, she does and all that. You know, people are not going to make this stuff up. It doesn't make sense. Financial gain.
But we don't even know what we're living in anymore because that's why you don't like being here.
We haven't got a clue. I mean, listen, I don't like the word theories, but all I can say is a bit of speculation. I think that maybe, like, the people that run, the controllers that run this place, right, they've invented all the bloody history that could possibly ever happen, but it's all happening now. Everything's happening now, and it's all happening at different frequencies. And I mean, I don't know, because, you know, we're working out as we go along, aren't we? But some of these stories here is just, oh yeah, there's another one here, hold on a minute. There's a guy in 1954, he landed at Haneda Airport in Tokyo, Japan in July that year. A Caucasian looking man dressed in a suit. He steps off a plane that originated in Europe and casually walks his way to customs. When customs asked what was the purpose of his visit, he told him he was there on business, blah, 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 blah. He spoke Japanese, French and Spanish, and they said to him, like, where have you come from? And he said, I've come from a place called Torrid, the most natural answer in the world. And they said, the problem is there's no such country. And when the customs officers informed him that there's no such place, he still presented his passport, and he was from this country lying between France and Spain. But it doesn't. But his actual passport said it was from a country called Torrid, and the customs people. So you can check all this up because obviously it's customs men. Anyway, he had 3 previous stamps from Japan. I'm just sort of like cutting it down a little bit. He was ushered away for questioning, and he said, well, my country's existed for 1,000 years, and they kept on saying to him, no, that your country doesn't even exist. And anyway, they stuck him into a room, and they went back to question him, and he bloody disappeared. You know, they put him. I don't know if you ever watched any of them programs when at border controls, they stick you in a room, like, lock you in there. But not only that, when the police went to retrieve his, like, passport and driving licence, which the same thing as the other one, like, you know, it was gone. You know, they put it in the safekeeping and it was gone. Now, these are absolute verified facts. They're not like someone saying, oh, well, hang on a minute, you know, this guy's making up. This can all be sort of like checked out. So the thing is, you know, a lot of I must admit, it's a very hard thing with me because I've never done this before. A lot of truthers won't touch this, but I'm just relaying information that I've looked at before, and I always find it quite intriguing because, like you said, Karen, we really don't know where we are. We're sort of like all of us are doing work, which is fantastic, all around the world, to find out where we actually are. We don't know where we are. You know, listen, I'm not going as far as what some people say.
This could be purgatory or hell or something.
We're in some kind of simulation. I mean, some people say we're in some kind of simulation where sort of like, you know, some kind of computer can just spit out all these. Everything we
and we're electric anyway, so that we're like living cyborgs, or we're like Blade Runners or something.
Yeah, I mean it's very bizarre. Some of these stories. I mean, I'll tell you about my own personal one that happened about 2 or 3. I don't know if I was in contact with you then, about 2 or 3 years ago. And these things very often happen when you're in a heightened state or anxious, you've got anxiety or whatever. And one of my uncles had just died, and what I used to do was go and stay with my other uncle before I used to go down to Hyde Park Corner. I used to stay with him in Kentish Town. Now, I used to use a gym up here, But I thought, I'll tell you what I'll do. I wonder if I can use this other gym. It's the same company. I went in there and said, excuse me, sir, can I use your gym? Now, I know I've never been there before, because a very long story cut short, this place is called Archway, and I come from Kentish Town. It's like, have you ever seen a film called The Warriors? When we were kids, it was like that. You know, you never ventured up there because you're liable to get beaten up, and they didn't come down our neck of the woods. But that was when I was a kid. You know, I was 57 or 58 at the time. So anyway, I went in there, went in the changing room, went out. I didn't go to the gym actually. I just went for a swim, went to the sauna. Anyway. Didn't think nothing of it. I used to go to my uncle once every 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, I went back down to the same gym in Archway. Went in there. Showed me. He said, "That's all right, mate." He said, "Go straight in." Went in there, and I walked into the changing room, and I said, "This ain't the changing room I was in 2 weeks ago." So anyway, I come out. I said, "Excuse me, mate." I said, "Where's the other changing room?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "The one with the shutter at the back." The one with the shutter at the back there, like, you know. He said, "No, mate." He said, "I've worked here for several years, like. I've never seen any shutter there." I said, "So now my heart's racing centre of a dozen." And I noticed all the seating on now listen, this, you wouldn't make something like this up. It's ludicrous. All the seating was around the other way. So I went to another couple of guys, like an older one. I said, "Excuse me, how long have you worked here?" He said, I've been a leisure assistant here a good few years, mate." I said, "Can you just come in the changing room for a second?" I said, "When did they remove that shuttering at the back?" He said, "I've been here for years, mate." He said, "I've never seen any shuttering." Now, I wanted to. By this time, I was really stressed out. Actually, I was shaking like a leaf. Now, if I'd have gone up, Karen, and gone like that on the shutter, it would have been there for all intent and purposes. Now, the only thing I did wrong. Now, I sent the second time I was there. I either sent one of my friends a photograph because I was literally shaking because I actually got up on a stool and I looked at sort of like the paint, and I thought, well, that's not new paint, you know, that has been there for a long time, and also all the silicone around the edge like was yellowing, so it's not like they've suddenly put these lockers there within the last like couple of weeks. I mean, I've even taken like all the seating to one side. I thought, well, maybe I got that wrong. I know there was shuttering there because you actually could hear people behind it, and now there's a wall and shuttering, and I just thought to myself, how bizarre. I mean, and what does something like that mean? Is it the creator or someone sort of like showing me, "Here, gal, this is where you live. It's not real. It's not real. Like it's all a bloody illusion." And it really spooked me actually. I had a few sleepless nights over it because strange things have happened in my life, but nothing like that. So when I read these other things, I think to myself, yes, I've experienced it myself, you know, and it's very bizarre. Now the strangest thing was, the first time I was in there was no one else in that changing room, which wouldn't have made any difference anyway, because very often when these things happen, you can see something and other people not necessarily can, you know.
That's strange, Jerry.
I've got an idea.
Really strange. Really, I think that day, I'm not sure. I either sent Kat or Marilyn like a photograph, but that was a second photograph of it. Now the thing is, there was no point. The 2 weeks previous, I had no reason to take a photograph because why would I? I just thought, oh, I've never been in here before. See, these things always seems to happen. It's like these stories of a place where you've never been before. You know, I've never been there before. It's the first time I've been there in my life, you know, because it's like about 3 miles away from where my uncle
it happened to me a lot when I was younger. It doesn't really happen now. I remember afterwards it reminded me a bit like...
You must have something in your life, something similar to what
Wait, it's like, do you remember Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea? And then he used to go through that tunnel, and the tunnel was going round and round. And then when he went off, he saved the world, and to the people where he'd come from, basically they blinked and he was back. For them it took seconds, but for him it was hours out saving the world. Is it like that? But you have this feeling that you've gone somewhere, and then it's like a snap, and then you're back, and you think, well, where did I go?
Do you know something? It was very bizarre because, you know, you could turn around and say, oh, girl, you know, you was a bit stressed out and anxious, like, because your uncle had just passed on and one way or another, but it was as real. It's like Alan Godfrey said, like, you know, with his UFO encounter, if I'd have gone up and gone like that, I actually heard children behind it. It was like, it seemed like that the reason the shutter was there for for argument's sake, they had a swimming gala there, they could make like the changing room twice as big for like a big party or something.
Well, do you know something else? Gary,
What's
when
that?
I used to go to Spirit Group in Newbury, and it was in the Scouts hut, but originally it was a barn, and a boy died in the barn, and every now and again you could hear him going bang, bang, bang on the ceiling. You
Yeah,
could hear it, and then she'd say, well, what's his name? He's here. And then when I got into this sort of meditation state, because you're opening your chakras up and you're all calm, I could hear somebody walking up the side of the church, but I was in the church and it was gravel, but when I came out it was concrete slabs next to it, so I couldn't have heard that, but I heard it.
I think everything can hold frequencies, like inanimate objects, anything, a building, because we're all made up of the same matter, and it can hold a certain
Or are these
frequency.
realities all happening at the same time?
I've got an
It
idea
is.
on
I
this.
think everything's happening at the same time. And what I went through, like I said, why would you make something like that up? Even to the point of saying, like, well, I got the bloke thought I was mad. He said, "What are you doing? What are you doing, mate?" I said, "I'm checking the silicon up here, mate." And he's looked at me as if to say, "You're bonkers." Not for the reason I'm thinking of, but I'm thinking I wanted to see if it was new, because obviously, like, doing a lot of building with my stepfather, like, you know, years ago, God rest his soul, we used to do a lot of building. You know, when you put your silicon on, to sort of like, you know, you put your lockers up there, like, and you silicate so the water don't get round the back. Well, I looked at it and I thought, my God, that's been there for years, mate. You know, it ain't been done in the last couple of weeks. But I mean, even like I said, I was going to go down to the library and sort of like try and look at microfiches or something to see what this, and I still might do it, what it would look like, say, in the 1950s or something, because it did look out of time. The 2 weeks before, it looked like something out of the, even the lockers looked different, but I didn't really take notice of that. It was basically the bloody thing at the back, and I think when you're at a state of maybe heightened anxiety or something like that can do that. You know what I mean? It's like that is when it happens. You know, and it pretty much, because even when I got round to my uncle's, he said to me, "Bloody hell, girl, you're right. You seen a ghost?" I said, well, no, not quite. And I thought, the last thing I need to turn around to him now and say, like, I've just
But you know what, Gary? We can't go back to any of these big things, like I say, wars and that, because we don't know if any of it's real and it's not all his story.
We don't. The thing is, Karen, listen, my father's been dead since 1974, like I told you the other day. He was like, he would have been like the current version of sort of like SAS or SBS. He used to work behind enemy lines. I mean, he never told me anything. My auntie, who's still alive, but she barely, like, has told me the stories about his exploits, like, you know, going out on these bloody canoes, like, to the coast and working. But the thing is, that might have been true what he was doing, but how much of the rest of it is? That's the question. When we see these films on a TV, like, I mean, you know, you've got to be so careful, because some people might be listening to it like that our dads fought in the war, might be another, but how much of it is true and how much of it is fake? I mean, we don't know, do we? We really don't.
Well, the wars aren't really I feel really sad for people who sign up to be a soldier, because they're basically giving their life for their country, and they don't care, because we're just collateral. They don't care. We're just a stage set for them.
Because we look deeper into things and we realise that all these things are connected, we say, hang on a minute, these are the same people that have done this, the same people that have done this, da 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 da. Why are they gonna tell the truth about that for? And you know, this is the thing. We're seeing it straight away, like this current thing. You know, we don't want to mention it too much, don't you get a strike, but we see patterns, don't we? Do you remember we spoke about this, Karen, like a few months ago? We see patterns in things, and then this is no different. We've seen the patterns. Unfortunately, a lot of people can't see the patterns. Highly intelligent people can't see the patterns, but for some reason, God has given us the gift to sit, like me, you, James, and all the rest of us in the community, Adam, mate, and everyone else in the community has given us this gift to see this, you see, and obviously it's for a reason, and what that reason is, I don't know. But it's
almost as if we're in
like
a film called, like, I always relate, like, we're in a film, like, you know, the Saw films. I'm not saying it's the same kind of thing. It's similar to that. You think you're going to get out, or you think you're going to find the answers, and just when you get there, well, they die, but it just leads you on to more questions and more things.
But this is it, you know, I mean, the thing is,
it just reminds me of that film, you know, because they almost thought they were getting out and they didn't.
I've got an idea.
It's like a game. We're in a constant game. That's what I mean.
I was down Speaker's Corner. I've been sitting for a long time. This truther, he said to me, he said, "Gal," he said, "do you realise that we may be sleeping now, and when we're dreaming, that is life." And I said, no. I said, what a strange thing to say. And since he said that, it reverberated. And then he also turned around and said, we're dead now, and you're living when you pass. And I thought, my God, you know, as we know that we reverse everything, everything's reversed. I mean, James said something about it earlier, about dreams, about how we, you know, what when we dream, you know, sometimes you hear people turn around and say, my God, it seems so real. It seems so real, that dream, you know. Maybe it is. Maybe when we're awake, we're dreaming, because now...
Well, I do remember, you know, when you dream, you could be anywhere. Like, I remember once when I was younger, because I'd been shopping, but I didn't go on a bus. I drove, but in my dream, I went on a bus, and there was all these people, and I thought, because I'd been looking up astral travel at the time, and I was thinking, wow, they're all in my dream, and I'm all in theirs.
How real did that dream feel to you?
Well, I saw all their faces.
Could you distinguish it from this reality?
No, not
Right.
what I saw.
Okay, you got two things going on, two scenarios. You've got people from the past coming into the future, which can be verified with historical records. You've got people claiming of coming to the future. The question is, why are they coming back in time? What if imagination does create reality? Now, you said it earlier, Gary, a lot of people have that feeling they don't want to be here. What if imagination creates reality, if we haven't got a defined thought, like a clear vision of what reality we want to be in, maybe this is why we have sort of all jumped to reality. I'd also say as well, like the guy that's apprehended at customs and the other one ends in a police cell, they then vanish. If they have the ability to do it once, what's to stop them not doing it again? Maybe we jump into a reality that's sort of laid out like a computer game, back screen.
Yes, I was going to say, like they've done films where basically this guy, I can't remember the film now, but basically he wanted to be in a happy reality where he was on a beach and all that, but really in reality he was almost dead, and they were doing it with his brain. But in his world, he was awake and he was having this life, but it was in his mind.
It begs the question of how many realities are there, because there could be just subtle little differences. Like the advert hoardings might be in a slightly different place, or driving on the other side of the road. It could be, or somebody walking on the other side of the road. You're still passing by them, but things have just slightly changed. And it might explain why all these Mandela effects, why I remember Coca-Cola with a dash or not with a dash. Is it Sex in the City, Sex and the City? All these little subtle changes could be glitches.
Or the more you wake up, this is what I think. The more you wake up, that's when the Mandela effect comes in.
Yeah, and you know something.
And it changes the past because you've woken up. That's what I think. That's the only way I can explain the Mandela effect.
I don't know if anyone's picked up on this, but the other night I used to love Laura and Hardy when I was a kid. I used to absolutely love them. And Steve Coogan, another fella. Steve Coogan plays Laurel, and this other big fella plays Hardy. And everything they were saying, well, you know, he always used to say, "Here's another fine mess you got me into." Well, in this reality, he's never said another fine mess. He said, "This is another nice mess you got me in." And now, listen, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if I speak to Hal bloody Roach at the studios. When I was a kid, it said, "Here's another fine mess you got me in," and not another nice mess.
I remember it as
being fine. Right. It doesn't sound. It just.
What about Mandela? Mandela, I was in my mum's house. I remember it now on the news. They said Mandela had died. Then over the time, people have said, well, we had a ceremony at school for him, rah-de-rah-de-rah, and then 15 years, 20 years later, he became the president. The first time, he was married to Willie Mandela, and she got everything. And the second time, he divorced her, and she got nothing. It's all bizarre. Like, you forget about it. You know, like you said, well, what if people aren't even remembering the mad cow's disease?
No.
They only need about 5 or 10 years, and everybody's forgotten what's going on.
Only a few years ago. I mean, another one for me. I was watching. I'll tell you why I watched it, because I was born in Holloway, in 40 Hilldrop Road, and in 40 Hilldrop Crescent, Dr. Crippen lived. Now, I don't know if you remember him. He was a guy that poisoned his wife to go off of his lover. who was like Ethel Leneve. Anyway, I got another story about it. This is what you call real synchronicity. Anyway, on the film, they said, and when he was standing at court, he said, and here stands like Dr. So-and-so Crippen from 39 Hilldrop Crescent. Now, I know for a fact it was 40 Hilldrop Crescent, and I'll tell you why. Because my nan had the bloody house at 40 Hilldrop Road, and she used to drive. Americans used to knock on her door all day long saying, "Excuse me, man, can you tell us is this where Dr. Crippen lives?" She said, and she said, just go effing round the corner, like, I'm fed up with you knocking it. My mum told me she actually put a sign on the door saying, "This is not where Dr. Crippen lived. It's round the corner," because he got hung in 1910 or something like that, right? Because it was the first time when someone got caught. This is why I watched it. The strangest thing is the synchronicity of this. I was thinking about my dad at the time, and his favourite actor was Donald Pleasance. And I went through and bugger me, who's playing like Dr. Crippen, Donald Pleasance, and it was 1963 this was made, so I thought, I've got to watch this. And I thought, oh, they're great, they're going to turn around and say about near where I was born. No, they born around the corner, but they said 39. Now, you could turn around and say, oh, well, they just got the number wrong. But I don't think so, because the person that lived at 39 when that film come out, they would have gone ape shit, because people would be knocking on the bloody door all day, all day long. Listen, I never met my grandmother. She died in 1959, I think, in Whittington Hospital in Archway. Funny enough, right next door to where that gym was. And I was born in 1960. But my mum told me these stories. Now, here's a twist of the tale. I was talking to her one day, like, about murders, and she told me about Dr. Crippen, and she said to me, "Oh yeah, when I was a little girl, I walked into the pub with my mum. She was a right character, my nan, apparently. She used to have parties at her house once every 2 weeks. 1 week there was the coalman, and the next week there was a dustman, because never the twain shall meet, so they used to bloody fight. And she used to be a right ducker and diver, like getting money out of them at the door and selling them booze. But anyway, my mum said to me, yeah, when I was a little girl, I walked into the pub, and I said to my mum, I said, who's that woman over in the corner there? She said, oh, that's a woman called Ethel Leneve. She was Dr. Crippen's lover. So my mum went over and said, hello, love, you don't look very, very happy, you all right? And she said, oh, no, I'm fine, thank you. But she was a hopeless drunk and an alcoholic. But yeah, it's just strange, like how all these connections. But I do remember that as soon as it came on, I thought to myself, I've got to watch this, like, because I know I just bombed round the corner. But they could have made a mistake. They could have made a mistake with a number, but I don't think so, because I'll tell you what, when that film would have come out, whoever lived at number 39, they would have got their door knocked in, because my mum told me because I was born in that house, and then we moved out the road like a little bit later, but people used to know, because they're ghoul hunters. They like things like that. They say, excuse me, do you mind if I come in and see where Dr. Crippen lived and all that? And I think, how sick can people be? But, is that a Mandela effect or just a mistake? I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, this is getting...
I really wish we had this ability from when we were children, so that we knew all those things then to come forward with, but we don't, do we?
Yeah.
No. And you know something? Another big one for me. I told you the other day, another big one, and I don't think anyone's ever... I've even... Because obviously, like people like Stavely and Scarab and all that are a lot younger than me. I've got a good 15 years on them or whatever. But when I was a kid, I remember Oil of Ulay with a U.
Yeah.
Because my mum used to have it, and now it's called the Oil of Olay. And apparently, in this reality, do you remember it as well, James?
Yeah, I do.
In this reality, it's always been Oil of Olay. It's been Oil of Olay, and I know it. I bloody know it. I know it was Oil of Ulay.
Yeah,
I know it was.
As well.
So the thing is, I think all I can say is that we must have jumped into another reality or something, because I don't feel I'm from here anymore, Karen. I really don't.
Well, do you know what? I just one of the biggest shocks for me, not now, but it's realising that when we're watching Boris and Trump, they're not real people. They're all like, what are we living in when we can't even see our prime ministers or presidents as real people? They've got the wrong, like Boris. We did Boris the other day.
The amazing hairline.
He's got, he had this amazing hairline. He looks bald. And not just in the middle, I mean.
But it moves.
And then, not just that, they're showing him having brown eyes, but he has blue eyes.
Yeah, and yet another website says green eyes.
And there's nobody to go to, and YouTube loves showing these videos of him. They're the ones that are
if that's not an Irish jig that he's wearing, I don't know what is. I mean, that can't be his real hair, can it?
It'll make you wonder. Right?
His eyes are so strange.
Yeah.
They're so... And on some of the footage, you can see his eye is bent. So none of these are real. And, you know, you have to... Listen, everybody out there, you need to get some footage and slow it down. I mean, get a recorder, slow it down, and you'll see it all for yourself.
I've seen stuff that you've done with him, like, and when it slows right down, he looks like a cartoon character, doesn't it? His eyes are going all different and everything.
We did one the other day where he turns around and he's just looking to the right in the middle of this video. Take away the hair and the other things we saw, and you can see his eye is bent round.
Yeah.
There's little things that just don't look right.
You know, it just looks like a cartoon.
No, it's not even recent. It's not just recent stuff. It's the miraculous bit of famous film of Market Street in San Francisco that just happened to be done just before the earthquake and the fire. And there's so many.
Oh yeah, but the trams are okay.
Yeah.
Which don't you think would be one? If there was an earthquake, they would have been one of the first things that would have been dislodged.
I do wonder about, did they have sightseeing in 1906? Sightseeing because the two trams that go across the street say sightseeing, and it's the dangerous manoeuvres people are doing crossing the roads.
Yeah, they'll have to walk in front of everything.
The motor cars that are veering suddenly to the left or the right in front of horses, and it's like, well, how do you get the horses to not be startled? I watched one after the earthquake and fire, and there's an explosion, and this horse doesn't even jump. It doesn't twitch at all. And it's not that far away, and it's.
And all these things are happening, and these people are like walking on as if it's not happening.
Horses are very attuned to a sense when there's danger. They will react. How do you stop? How can that be real if the horse isn't reacting to an explosion? How would they do that unless they've put a back scene? Because maybe what
people don't realise is, in the Victorian times, they could mess around with the footage.
Yeah,
they could get cars
definitely.
going up buildings. They have the technology, and people don't realise.
Yeah.
So they've been doing it to us since then.
Definitely, I'd say.
It's horrible, isn't it? It's horrible. Even the space one, to make you believe in reality that doesn't exist, takes your freedom away. So all these people who believe in all that stuff, they've got no freedom themselves.
When you've got high definition film footage from a year like 1837, and it's smoke from a steam engine, and it's sharp and defined, and then you get to about 1890 and the film quality has gone down, you start to think, what is going on here? Why would the quality go down that drastically? It should really be getting better.
If we'd had a flood and it was what was left, maybe that's why. They've only got the footages of the good stuff.
It doesn't make sense that the
I tell you what I
technology
fancied
will go
living
the
in.
wrong
I think
way.
I'd like to have lived in the 17 and early 1800s. We were far more advanced than we are now. Yeah.
Karen, I'll be with you in a minute. I just got to check to see if I'm locked in this shopping centre or not.
Oh no, Gary!
I'm just going to go and check. No, I'm just going to go and check to see what time they close on her.
Probably 4 o'clock.
I would have to sort of like spirit myself out.
How would you get out? Oh gosh, Gary, no, he's not locked in.
Hang on, let's have a look. 4 o'clock. What's the time? It's 4 o'clock here.
It's 4:30. We've been going for nearly 2 hours, Gary.
Well, that makes a mockery of their security camera system then, doesn't it? It's all
shit, I better go. Hang on. It's still open. Hang on a minute. It says like Sunday 10 till 4.
Oh, it may be cleaning staff coming.
The door's still open at the moment anyway.
Let's make sure Gary gets out the building.
Yeah, don't get locked to.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll give it another like 10 minutes or so, and I better.
You better get out. Well, if you drop off, should we say goodbye now? That's it. He's dropped off.
Oh dear.
Oh no, he's there.
No, hello. No, sorry, someone else is phoning me up.
Oh, do you know what? Wherever you were sitting, there was a slight fuzzing going on, and now you've moved. The fuzzing's gone.
I was going to say,
Oh, right.
if you, in the unlikely event you do get locked in, try and find a department store that's got food in it as well as beds and everything. Because at least if you are locked in, you've got means to
I'll tell you
survive.
what. Listen, I'll give it another like. Yeah, I'll give it another half hour. Like if there's sort of like a shop meal, I'll just get in there. No. So
Well,
it's
wherever
really-
you've moved to,
it's
the
really-
quality's so much better now, Gary. It wasn't really annoying, but now it's gone. It was annoying.
Yeah, it's.
Well, is it
a lot-
better?
Yeah,
used
it'll
to
come
it.
through on the hangout, but hopefully it's just low and But anyway, we have been going for nearly 2 hours. See, we've lost time.
Blimey.
It's fascinating, though. All these topics.
Great stuff.
Well, do you want to,
Yeah,
anything
what
else you
about-
want to say
well,
on the
couple
way
more-
out then? On the way out, Gary.
Well, just I've really enjoyed it today. It's been fantastic. We've covered a fair few subjects, and basically just I love all the truthers out there, and just keep up all the good work, everybody. And let's just beat these mother effers.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what I can't put I just don't know what to. I just don't have answers anymore for some things. Even when you know stuff, because not enough people are waking up. Why would people want to put up with this?
I mean, the thing is, I think the people that are woken up are awake now. How many more people we're going to get? This is the question, isn't it?
Well, I think
You can't wake anybody up. We've done that when you realise people have to wake up themselves.
a simpler answer would be I'd say it's probably all held together by frequency. If those of us that are aware there's things not right with this reality, if we could collectively jump, because it seems like we've collectively jumped into this one, because you've got a certain set of people that don't seem to have memory of that mad cow disease and things that were headline news. Well, maybe that shows that we've got the potential to also jump out of this one into a slightly better version. But it's how do we do it? That's the question.
This is it. I mean,
Do you know what? Oh, Gary, also something, because I know that Gary won't mind me saying. Gary, it says quite often that he's autistic.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's that, whether it is, but it's almost as if me and James and
Yeah.
all the awake people, we're on the autism spectrum. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean you're autistic, but you're there on this autism spectrum. And they
to a certain
cannot
to a
rule
certain
up.
level, I
You
think
can't
we're all
rule an autistic person. You can't rule us. There's something we just see right through it.
Autonomous.
I think it doesn't work on us. I think people have got dyslexia, like Harry's got dyslexia. Paul
Yeah,
Knight's
those
got
kind of things.
dyslexia. I
I'm
think
dyslexic,
people
artificially
like us,
dyslexic.
People like us, the spells don't seem to work. The spells don't seem to work. That's what it is. I'm sure it is.
I'd agree with that, definitely. Considering what we've been put through, and it's not clearly their plan doesn't work, because there is a plan, but to the way things go, it becomes obvious that there is a sort of design to it all. But yeah, things aren't working on us. It's like,
And it's
I can see
horrible to
through it
wake
all.
up, isn't it? That nearly everybody around you, your
Yeah.
family, I'm sorry, James, I know it's my word, but they're all narcissists.
Yeah.
And do you know something? It's strange, isn't it? Because we're all going through the same thing. I mean, I wonder how many people in the truth community whose whole family and friend network are the same as them. I bet there's not one.
Yeah, how
in the
unfair.
world.
They can talk about what they like, when they like, the whole thing, but we're not allowed to talk about certain things. If we only wake up and realise what they do to us.
It's a very lonely path. It becomes horrific looking at all the external stuff and seeing just how much we've been lied to. It's all part of the process, I think. So it seems bad. It seems bad, but that's the sort of test on.
But
us
we
to
do have
find
each
out
other, even
yeah.
if we're not. I mean, James
This
is
is
here
it.
right now. I know Gary. I've met Gary. So we can meet, but we don't actually live on each other's doorsteps.
Yeah.
But the thing is, at least we can converse with each other like on WhatsApp or whatever. The thing is, I would be living a hell if I didn't have everyone in the community that I sort of like correspond with and talk about. You imagine what hell you would do, because what you got to imagine, there are some truthers out there that are probably closet truthers. And they're not.
Well, yeah, no wonder
they're
everybody's
very
keeping to
insular.
themselves, Gary, because it makes me
But can you
feel a bit
imagine-
like that. I used to be
can you
such a
imagine-
social butterfly. I used to have social clubs But right now, I don't mind going out there. We went out to the castle yesterday and went shopping, but I don't really like going out there because there's loads of them, all in masks.
But can you imagine? People like someone who is a truther that knows a lot of the stuff we know, maybe even more. Who knows? But they've kept it all to themselves and bottled it up. It must be a living hell because I would feel like all the things that I've learned over these years, like we spread and we all help each other. And James knows a little bit more than me about one subject. I might know a little bit more about him, vice versa, blah blah blah. But we all help each other, and we say, hang on a minute. This might work better with that, blah blah blah, and this is how we do it all. But if you're someone like, because there's got to be people out there. Yeah. It's no different than having sort of like in the 80s, like when you had gays like in the closet that didn't want to come out and one way or another. It's probably the same with this. You've got closet truth, because that's why people say.
Again, Gary, what about this then? You know what they did? They keep telling us that we're barbaric, that we're murdering everybody. All these wars are happening. All these police, all this stuff. We closed the whole world down overnight without one police officer or one soldier. That's how violent and nasty we are. Even if they're narcissists, they're quite peaceful. They don't want to fight.
The thing to remember, it's the system has created the narcissism, because right at school age, it's all about competing against each other. It's sort of ingrained into us to be that way, and it's dismantling and undoing their programming as much.
That's it. That's the horrible thing, is we're programmed like a computer. It's almost that these things are natural when it's not. They're not natural.
I think we've all experienced going through that phase of buying into the system where, I really want to buy that product or whatever. So but we've managed to dismantle that aspect, and you sort of let go of the material world. It's sort of quite freeing, really. I haven't got that sort of desire for a Ferrari, because it's
exactly like me, James. The trouble is, if someone like me, like I'm a single bloke, like and it's very hard, because when you I meet a lot of nice girls and one thing or another, but straight away, as soon as you speak to them, they've got that ingrained into them. Yeah. It's like you can talk to them for 5 minutes and you say,
maybe in the Bible, this is the different languages they were talking about. It wasn't actually the one you spoke, it was the one that goes on in your mind.
Well, look at the message that comes, if you've got a Ferrari, what sort of person are you going to attract towards you?
A girl that just wants your Ferrari.
Well, a gold digger, basically. Which is a sort of a narcissistic wanting a possession sort of mindset. So, is the Ferrari a good thing to have? No. It's impractical.
We just want real people.
To be honest with you, all I'd like for our community, if we sort of like could live in a big bloody commune, like in the middle of nowhere, and just all get on with our lives, and then shut off the bloody outside world, because at the moment I bloody hate it. I just think to myself, I'm 60, I'm quite a fit bloke, like, I could live for another, if I lived as long as sort of like Captain Tom, like, I've got another 40 years in this bloody place. You know what I mean? I'm not sure I want it.
Yeah.
I know, it's awful, isn't it? We're supposed to want to be here. What I've said is, because obviously I've got grandchildren, and I love my grandchildren, so I don't want to go, but just don't send me back.
Well,
I don't want to come back here again.
Interesting.
No way.
Interestingly, you've got these monks in this sort of cross-legged position, where they're just these sort of bodies that look identical to the Egyptian mummies, and in that film, Somewhere in Time, Christopher Reeve has an out-of-body experience, but in that, when he goes back to 1912, he's in an identical body. So that I would take from that the reality that feels the most real is your sort of reference point, but we do have the ability to jump time and things and change this reality.
I think so. You can manifest.
I just thought of another program. Do you remember Quantum Leap?
Yeah, that's another one.
Quantum Leap, same thing. See, predictive programming. I think like you can live a reality, and that's where you see residue. And this is where like these Mandela effects come from, because we can remember how it was, and then it's how it is now.
Oh, so we're not on the 10th, Gary. We're not on the 10th run of this. We've been here before 100 times. and we're doing the same thing again.
Exactly, and you know something?
It's because James won't do as he's told, that's why.
We're here to learn. We're here to learn, and the thing is, maybe we're sort of like we're coming to sort of like some kind of nirvana experience. Because all the truth is, because we're seeing what life is all about. We're seeing what is proper and how we're meant to live. And all the rest of them, like going out and buying big cars and Ferraris and bloody all the rest of it, going on holidays like, you know, to Timbuktu and back and 20 times a year and all that, they're still caught up in a paradigm and they can't see it. But maybe all us lot are coming to sort of like a certain plateau, a certain level where we're gonna leave this bloody realm. Like,
and it's a much more spiritual one though, isn't it? That one.
Yeah, and the thing is, the strangest thing is, I'm happier now than what I was. You know, there was a time in the early 80s, like when I had a few, you know, I haven't always been a poor git. I had a few market stalls like I had market stalls down Leather Lane, Petticoat Lane. We had like an ice cream like kiosk, me and my mate. You know, I was rolling in bloody dough, like, you know, I had a bird on the arm all the time and one thing and another. And you know something? I wouldn't give up what I am now, even with all this going on, to what I was then. I thought I was a happy person, but it's all an illusion. It's all an illusion. You think you're happy with all that.
But when you're in the
really.
telly life, you're a different kind of person when you're not in the telly life.
It's a false reality. Yeah, okay. I'm making all that money, like, you know, going out every night of the week, going clubbing it down the West End and one thing and another, having people working for you and this, that and the other. But you know something? I realise now that was to show me that it wasn't how life is meant to be. And what I'm living now is how it's meant to be, and I'm happier now. So it just goes to show you that, like...
Except it's a bit lonely, isn't it? Because it's not like you've already said, you can't talk, unless you're awake, you can't talk about all these things.
But the strangest thing is, even all what's going on, I wouldn't want to be that Gary then. I was an horrible bastard. I don't like that Gary. That was like a different Gary. I feel like I'm looking in a mirror a different Gary now than then. I can't explain it, Karen. That wasn't me then. And I cringe. I pinch myself sometimes and think, when I think of some of the things I got up to one for another, you know, I think to myself, I couldn't dream of doing that now. So obviously, I've moved on. My spiritual self has moved on to another stage.
Well, this is what in Christianity, which most people don't seem to understand, is what repentance is. It means a change of mindset. So when you look back at your old self, you're horrified by it.
I'm horrified by it, honestly. James, I've woke up in cold sweats.
Yeah.
I've woke up in cold sweats, thinking to myself, how did I do that?
Yeah.
Because this Gary in this sort of like avatar, Gary now, I couldn't physically do that kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like
and Gary's lovely now, aren't you, Gary?
Thank you very much. So do you know, so I think I better get out of it because all the lights are going off.
Oh yeah. Don't get locked in.
Gary, shall we? If we say goodbye for the hangout, but we'll stay with you till we lose you. How about that?
Yeah. What I'll do.
But that was a very interesting and spooky and.
Well, the thing is, it was quite spooky. As far as I know, no other trooper, I don't know any, have touched upon it because it is a little bit risque and near the mark, because then you're going on to things like, well, how can it possibly bloody be? But I've given you cases that can bona fide, and anyone in a chat room or sort of like
we don't remember them talking on chat shows about this or bringing all those out. They just bring up all the lies.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, they can check up all these cases. Like I said, certain people make a lot of money out of it. Like I said, Patterson and Gimlin, like, you know, that was a fraud, but they made millions out of it. They done it for a different reason. The cases with Bigfoot, the cases I give you are cases when the people are just ordinary people. They've got nothing to gain by it. You know, some people.
And actually, it's the same with us, isn't it? Because, like you said, when we try and wake someone up and they're nasty to us, what is the gain for us? We're already awake.
Exactly. So the thing is, my point is, when we tell people about these things, right? And I've had people tell me. I told you, Karen, I've had people when I was on the Globe Light or at Milton Keynes, like I done Milton Keynes, it's the nearest place to me, and some bloke started saying to me, you're bloody mad, you are, one thing. I told you, I said, I'm mad. Just stay there a minute, my friend. It's like the old Gary come back a little bit. I said, come here, I want to ruin your show, like. I said, do you think we're spinning around at 1,000 miles at the equator? The thing is, they don't even know it themselves. You speak to these people that are globalists, they don't even know how it all works themselves. So it just makes it
Yeah,
a lot.
and we've all had to learn more about the globe to explain it back to them.
Yeah.
We don't do this for any love. So all the cases I've given you, people don't do things like that because they get a lot of these people that have played, like a couple of cases were policemen. Like Alan Godfrey's a policeman. I actually see he was actually still alive. Actually, he was on with that Sean Ryder out of like that bloody group, like Happy Mondays or whatever. He's a ufologist, like, and he went back to where it all happened, and he was showing him. He said, "This is where the UFO." But I just think now, like I said, maybe like you said, Karen, something come from another dimension or interdimensional thing as opposed to an extraterrestrial thing. But the thing is, that's what I said. It's all right people turn around and say, "Oh, these people are mad and whatever," but they get nothing but grief. I mean, I've had nothing but grief from some of my family.
No, my family have treated me really weirdly, and they just, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. And that's
some of
it.
my friends think I'm cuckoo. They think I'm round the bleeding den, like, oh, Gary's completely bloody lost it. But the thing is, that's what I'm saying. So the thing is, people don't do these things out of the love of it. If it happens to you, like the story I told
But you know what? You know, if they did send loads of people to asylums in the olden days, maybe those people were telling the truth.
Exactly. I mean, some people might hear my story about what I told you about in the gym down in Archway and say, oh, Gary's lost a plot. Maybe he was just seeing things that day. But they can think what they want. But what I'm saying is, a lot of people, they're never going to, unless you open yourself up to sort of like more things spiritual, these things ain't going to happen to you. It happens to us for a reason because we've opened ourselves up, and I think it's the Creator, like giving us little tips saying you're on the right track.
Yeah, because we're on missions, aren't we? We're all on a mission.
I think we are. We're missionaries. We're modern day. I actually believe that, Karen. I think we're modern day missionaries, all of us. Like you see these old films, like when you see like these missionaries going to Africa, like teaching Christianity. I think we're the modern day ones. We all are. Because I mean, they was doing like the jab in the arm down the churches down the road here, and I mean the thing is, Christians there think they're doing the right thing. They don't even know. They ain't got a clue, have they? They think they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, they're not. It's sort of forgive them for they know not what they do.
Exactly. They think they're doing. Yeah, do you know something? I'm sorry, I've got to cut
you.
All
right, Gary, for the hangout, we're going to say goodbye, but we'll stay with you till you leave. But for the hangout, Gary, that was amazing. James,
thanks. I love you both lots. Thanks, James. We'll do another one soon, all right?
Yeah, that was excellent.
Thank you so much. This is for the hangout, but don't go because we'll talk to you while you're trying to get out to make sure you get out.
All right, Karen.
All right then, for the hangout. Mwah.
Yeah.